I'm Mike Isaacson. I'm the artistic director and executive producer, and I am really excited to introduce to you initially, and you are going to, one of the things I like to say to Muny that is a very deep truth to me is you can create a grand stage, you can create a beautiful stage under the trees. It literally does not exist without great talents. And that's really why it exists. And I feel so privileged to be sitting with a great talent. And after you see the show tonight, you go, oh, he was right. Katerina, so we joked right before this. Every time she and I have tried to have a conversation the last 10 days, we've been interrupted. So this is literally like the first time the other time. I'm going to say Katerina was sort of, I'm going to say discovered with a small d by a mutual friend of ours, Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is a known Broadway director. I worked with him on Thoroughly Modern Millie, where he discovered Sutton Foster. I worked with him on You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, where he discovered Kristen Chenoweth. And he's done he has such a beautiful eye for talent. And it was announced, I don't know how many years ago, when the national tour of the Broadway production of Funny Girl was going out, and Michael had directed the production on Broadway, that Katerina McCrimmon would be playing Fanny Brice. And everybody went, who? And I knew, oh, Michael Mayer has found a new star. I got to keep my eye on this one. And then you played the Fox and Funny Girl it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, last year.
Last year. And I went and I texted Michael, I'm like, damn, you've done it again. So when we knew we were doing Evita, we reached out to her, and she has in her bio, so this is how I want to start the conversation, you have it, this is your dream role, that Evita is a dream role. Tell me when you first heard it, why is it a dream role for you, what do you connect to, all that stuff.
Oh, I love it. First of all, I'm really excited to get to talk to you, even if it's with like 50 people watching. Yeah, I mean, when I was about 13, I saw it for the first time at Miami Children's Theater. So, you know, it was probably a 14-year-old playing Eva, but even then I was really transfixed and I was really inspired just by the power and the ambition that she had. And then a year later, we went on our 8th grade field trip to New York, and we saw the revival on Broadway. I guess this was with
Ricky Martin,
Elena Roger. Yes. I think we saw the understudy for Elena, but she was great either way. But I remember sitting there, and I was 14, and I was like, oh, I could do that. And lo and behold, you know, however many years later, here we are. But I think the main thing that I was really obsessed with was the fire, and that's kind of the thing I'm always drawn to in any roles that I want to play, whether it be Fanny Brice or Eva Perón, or, you know, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking, you know, Edwin Drood. I mean, that's like a huge role for me. I think of these roles, these women who are so powerful, and that to me is exactly the kind of person I want to play on stage, because it's, I don't know, it's my favorite part of who I am, and when you're on stage you have to share a little bit of yourself. So and then what I also love about Eva Perón is she's so complex, so it's like I also have to dig into the parts of myself I don't like too much, but it's the only way to give an authentic performance. So
in my program notes, I sort of write about that. And I remember I first saw the show, a little bit older than you, the national tour when I was in high school. I lived in Milwaukee. I went down to see it in Chicago. And it was, you know, this big event and this big hit. And I think I was up in the second balcony, you know. And I remember watching it thinking, this is incredible, and I don't understand any of it. And I had to listen to the album, you know, and then the revival, I was sort of like, okay, I'm beginning to understand this. And now it's so interesting with more life experience and seeing, honestly, more political maneuvers. Yes. And that, the hunger of politicians, which I don't think you really understand until you're an adult. Yeah. And you sort of see it all playing out and what that is. I did say to her, I was really angry at her because I've never liked the character till this production. And liked is an interesting word, but I sort of understood that. And let's talk about those complexities, because I'll just we'll play yes or no. Do you think, in your experience of it, in your treatment, what is her level of manipulation?
I think she's not so much a manipulator as an opportunist. I don't think that in any of these situations she has really planned out what's happening, but the minute she sees an opportunity, she goes for it. I think she's very ambitious. I think when she's singing I'd Be Surprisingly Good for You, and she goes, you know, it seems crazy, but you must believe there's nothing calculated, nothing planned. I think it's right. I think she's telling the truth. But when she sees him, she goes, oh, this is the missing part of the recipe. This is who I can really climb to the top with. This is the person that matches my ambition. This is, you know, alpha meets alpha. But I don't think, you know, I don't think that it's manipulation as much as it is recognizing an opportunity and seizing it. Yeah.
I want to switch over just to you. So your voice is remarkable.
Thank you.
Yeah, who said it? Say it louder. Unbelievable. We'll go with unbelievable.
Thank you.
And each night as I listen to the show, I hear different shadings and different moments, and actually you having fun and playing with it. Fair? Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's so amazing. Tell us, how old were you when you discovered you had this thing called talent? Where were you? How did you develop it? Give us your journey.
I definitely came out of the womb singing, for sure. Like, I just knew. Like, I don't even think there was a moment in time where I'm like, oh, I could sing. Like, I could just always sing. But I do remember, I guess my first memory of like wanting recognition for it, I was probably 6 or 7. And I remember being in like music class, and you know, the music teacher would all teach us all a melody to sing, you know, just working on just singing. And as she would pass me, I would sing extra loud. And I was like, I want her to notice me. Do you hear my voice? I know I've got it. Give me a chance. But you know, she didn't. She didn't notice me. But a few years later, I had a new music teacher who did, Miss Grace, and she was kind of the start of my journey. And that's when I started doing like singing competitions. And the first song I ever sang in a competition was "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" by Judy Garland. And I was just thinking about it because I keep getting comments and people coming up to me telling me I sound like her. And I was like, well, I didn't grow up watching much of her stuff except for The Wizard of Oz, but then I remembered the first solo I sang in a competition at 8 was Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So of course it's going to influence my sound. So yeah, I mean, I think I always had it in me, and then, you know, at a very young age, luckily I got to hone it.
And did you go to school to study? When did you start auditioning? When did you start moving into the professional life?
Yeah, I mean, I saw my first musical at 8 years old, and then that year I started doing shows, and then I started going to performing arts schools in middle school, then high school, then college. So I just nonstop. Once I knew, I knew.
You knew. Yeah.
And I went to Florida State University for musical theater, and that was great for me, and it was cheap.
Yeah. Well, I think what people don't, I mean, you hear stories of certain programs that are premiere and all that, but this business is beautifully sort of talent is talent, and word gets out about talent, and you know, I very much appreciate that, because we pull kids, as you can see, from programs all over the country because they do that. Back to the show. It's such an easy sing. I mean, if you know Evita, the story of Evita was, this is Tim Rice and Edward Lloyd Webber, and it was right after Jesus Christ Superstar. They wanted to prove that they could do another hit, so they wrote Evita, and it was an album first, right? This was the whole era of albums becoming shows. Remember, albums, and is there, but it is you know, it is sort of, I would say, along with Gypsy, considered to be sort of like the King Lear of women's musical theater parts. It's just so demanding, and once you were gracious enough to say, yes, I'll come to the Muny and do this part, which we're forever grateful for. What was your prep work with the music? How did you approach it? What was that mountain to climb?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was always familiar with the songs just because it was a dream role for me. But there was a lot of the score I didn't know, you know, the recit work and like the scene work. I mean, there's no scenes, everything is sung, but there are songs that, you know, they aren't like the bops that you put on in your car that you're like, oh, I have to sing this too. Not just Don't Cry for Me Argentina, not Buenos Aires and all that. But as soon as I found out, I met with Ben, our music director, and he was gracious enough to let me into his home. And he was like, all right, put on your recording device, let's go. And he started putting all of the songs in, just plunking out my parts, making sure I had it, you know, just from scratch, you know, no influence, because obviously when you're listening to the soundtrack, you start hearing Patty's voice or Elena's voice or whoever you decide to listen to, and it's very easy to mimic, especially for me. I'm quite the mimic. And so when I'm learning a part, I don't want to hear it. When I did Funny Girl, I didn't listen to Barbara at all because I didn't want to copy her. You know, I wanted to just like sing it my way. And so me and Ben, we met up, I recorded all the parts, and I just had them on repeat all the time, just on the subway, listening to the parts. And the parts are quite weird. You know, a lot of the melodies are just very chromatic and strange and difficult to learn. So it was definitely a challenge, but a good one. And I had time, you know, because I think I found out in about February, March that I was cast, something like that. And so I had a few months just to get familiar with it and have it in my head all of the time. And then I met with Josh and Lee. Josh Rhodes is our amazing director. He's so smart. And we had just a few coffee meetings just to be like, are we on the same page? Because the Muny process is so quick. He's like, you're not even ready. Like, you're ready, but you don't know. Because I had never done something like this, right? Where we put on a show so quickly. Usually I have at least a month, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. So he was like, this is one of the hardest roles of all time, and we're going to do it real quick. So let's just meet up a few times, make sure we're on the same page. And that was really helpful because we got to discuss what we were going for and how we wanted people to walk away from the show, you know, making sure that we both had the same idea of who we wanted Eva to be. So that was really helpful. And then I got here a few days earlier than the rest of the cast, and you know, we just same thing, made sure we were all on the same page, went over the music a bunch of times, and then the rest of the cast came. We had how many days? 7, 8, something
11.
Like that? 11 total.
11 is total.
11 total. And we learned the show.
But you know, I have to say, witnessing you know, it is you'll see it tonight. It's an enormous part, and so one of the Muny processes is sort of essentially is we're moving from a show from the stage to production. We sort of know what it is, and then if something doesn't work, we just have to edit quickly. We say, great, we'll change here, we'll do that. And everything, it wasn't a long list, but everything that was thrown your way, it sort of changes. You're like, okay, great, let's do it that way, or how does this, and is this going to work? Like, it was a true testament to your generosity as an artist.
Thank you.
Just the way, and you know, one of the things when you have a part like this, the company all takes their leads from the top, is the way I'd say it. They sort of take their cues, and your leadership and joy and fun and rehearsal and sort of that, and I just watched it spread throughout the company. So you know, by the time everyone was kind of having fun by night 2. Night 1's always like, oh, there's an audience, okay. But you know, it just is really one of the most remarkable things that I've seen under your, I'm just going to say, your leadership or your example, and sort of looking at your journey and being raised. Where did that come from?
What, my leadership?
Well, just your general sort of, I mean, you were such an open spirit towards everything.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. I mean, my mom is, you'll meet her, she's coming tomorrow, actually.
Great.
I guess my mom is quite joyous and open, and maybe I get it from her, but I don't know.
Are there any questions from the group? Anybody?
I have one.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, it's an hour before showtime.
Yeah.
You're so calm and collected. Do you get nervous at all, or?
Not anymore. I think opening night, yes, and then as soon as I do that, it's kind of chilling. Yeah. I think been doing it since I was 8, so I think I'm finally feeling good in it. Yeah.
And the other question I have is, you said a couple times we had to make sure we were on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
What type of things does that mean? Like,
yeah, basically what I'll do before any show is I'll read the entire script, and as soon as I have a question, I write it down. Okay. So I had kind of like 2 pages of questions for Josh, and I was like, give me answers. And we just talked through everything, and he was like, God, I love you. Thank you for these. And, you know, just making sure, because you just want to be prepared, and because this process is so quick, I think maybe with a quote-unquote normal process where you have more time, you might have the time to talk about it in the rehearsal room. But since we're going so fast, it's like, okay, you need to come in knowing how, you know, what your stance is on everything in the show as an actor. So basically just any questions about the plot, or, you know, how does she feel in this moment, or, you know, what is he doing here, or even just like really basic questions like, how does she get to Buenos Aires? You know, like this happens off stage and suddenly she's there, you know, so things like that are things that I'm usually curious about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing with us.
For sure, yeah.
2 things. One is that you were a young artist when you started doing this, and we have, I'm sure you've met these children, the Muny kids and Muny teens.
Amazing.
And I'm sure they would be inspired to know, I hope they know your whole story, because I've watched them when I've been coming for a long time, and I watch them as they grow up into the teens, and then they come back, like in last show, or the show before the first show, was one of our young stars, you know, when she was in high school here, maybe even younger, and you see how talented she is. In a starring role on the Muny stage, so it's a big deal. And I think that they could probably, you know, hopefully you get a chance to tell them a little bit about your story. So it's a wonderful story. I take it you're from Miami?
I am, yeah.
Me too.
No way! Where in Miami?
Coral Gables.
Oh my God, I'm from Westchester, so not too far. Yeah.
And I know that you said Miami Children's Theater, so I know that it's similar, you know, where kids get it really, like we have the Metro Children's Theater, we have a lot of children, we have a lot of theater in St. Louis, we're so lucky.
Yes, you do.
To see these young people grow up and gain the confidence to be you someday. Yeah. And there are several of them. In fact, Sarah Brown, who's a teenager in the chorus behind the stage, I think in this one, she's going to NYU Tisch.
Amazing.
Yeah, so she's been a Broadway singer for a long time, as you were. So I think that's really great. The other thing was, I was thinking about this in the role of Eva Perón, because she is kind of a controversial. I remember when I first saw it, I thought she was like, you know, you're a young girl and you care about politics, and you see this woman, you know, striving in politics. But then you realize that, you were talking about this earlier, as time goes on, you see the opportunism, and you see it in other people, and then you recognize it. And I've seen that in a lot of plays that are revivals of the play. Like, I saw Camelot, and I thought it was one story, and then when I saw it a few years ago here, I saw a different story, how it takes 50 years to build a round table, and then you got, you know, uprooted in a week, and kind of like real times. And I wondered how you feel about that when you do a role like this. Do you think about those things, or you just put it aside and just think about the art?
That's a good question. I feel like, for the most part, well,
it's time for your dental appointment.
I know. I think for the most part, I just look at what's on the page. You know what I mean? Like, I think the thing we need to do as actors is read the script and take notes as you would in any role. I think that was what I had to do for Funny Girl. I had to put Barbara away, and I was just like, okay, what's on the page, you know? And I feel like obviously there's just a huge political aspect to this. And I do take that into consideration. But I think the main thing is if you play the scene work as it is and you look at what the character wants, all of the overarching narratives will shine through, because I'm doing what's on the page, you know. But there are certain things that I can't control. You know, all I can do is kind of control my character's narrative, and then the rest of the characters will come to meet me where I am. So I think the answer to your question is yes and no, I guess. Yeah.
I will tell you that my experiences with artists who have played parts that are complicated, you can't do it unless you find some way to capture the humanity. Like, you can't judge what you're doing.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting...
You have to justify it in some way.
Yeah. You otherwise you just can't do it. So it's fascinating that... I'm sorry, someone else had a hand over here. Yes?
So I loved that you said, you're talking about the agility, like how fast you had to come into character and learn the show and get ready, and you said something like a month, and you said it was generosity of the performance. We a lot of times as leaders feel like there's like this generosity element of, are we generous leaders? Like, am I going to just do what needs to be done, or am I going to bring what I think my point of view needs to be? Maybe it's extend the program or whatever. Talk about that reconciliation between doing it the way you want to do it versus being a generous actor or leader.
Wow, yeah, that's a good one. I feel like, I think the main thing is just like being a good person. Like just thinking about like, how can I go the extra mile so that the kids feel seen, or like how can I, okay, let me write cards for everyone who's helped me get to this point. Like, I think being a leader is just like all the little things you do that add up, that everyone will kind of notice, and it'll help lift them. But when it comes to doing what I want to do, I feel like that's, for the most part, when it comes to performing, I feel like I am doing what I want to do. And then, and then it's a kind of a discussion with the director, right? Because there are going to be things that I do want to do, and he's like, don't do that. I'm like, well, why? He's like, just don't do it. I'm like, okay. And sometimes, they'll say, don't do it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. But yeah, I do feel like following your instincts is probably the best thing, especially in this particular process. Following your gut instincts as an artist is like how you get through, because there's really no time to think. But yeah, I don't know, being a leader, it's something I'm still learning how to do, because I'm so young, I don't know. I'm still learning.
I get the final question.
Yeah.
So, you have a moment in this show. And I don't want. Well,
you don't want to spoil it.
Yeah. Well, when she sings the famous song from the show, "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," and the way it is staged and how the moment, the audience is led in the moment. And you are up there, and when you're watching this tonight, I want you to take a moment. She's transfixing, right? But you will feel 10,000 people don't exist, and we are all there. I don't have the language, which is clear. What is that like for you every night?
It's actually one of the most calm parts of the show for me. Because I actually think it's quite simple. I don't think you need to do too much. I think all you have to do is sing the words that have been written for her, and the message is quite clear. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but I do feel like, for me, that's one of the easiest parts of the show, besides getting up those damn stairs. I have a heart attack every night. I'm like,
but you turn it into poetry. Like, that's the thing, because we're all like, oh God, the dress, and I watched you evolve that move into like Mother Courage, right? I was like, look at her turn this into a moment that is just as transfixing as anything else in the show. So anyway, all right, we have to, because she does have to go and get ready. So please join me.
Thank you. Let's give it up for Katerina and Mike. As you make your exit stage left, Katerina was so generous to sign programs for everyone here.